Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. And the Gila River Indian Community Tribal Social Services is hosting the inaugural Tribal Child Abuse Prevention Conference, Beyond Resilience, Planting the Seeds for Our Future, on Wednesday, April 22nd in Chandler, Arizona. This event is designed to empower participants and build community-led solutions for protecting children and supporting families. On the phone today to tell us more is Alex Villalobos, Training Coordinator with Gila River Tribal Social Services Department. Alex, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Thank you for having me, Susan. So great to be here.
I am so excited to learn more. Very important topic, and I know the conference is going to be great. Everything you all do is you do a great job. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you ended up at Gila River in the social services.
Yeah, so I have been in child welfare for about 10 years now. So now I am the training coordinator for social services here. I started in 2020. My role started off here as training coordinator for our residential programs for youth, and then has evolved throughout the department to now not only training our staff, but also recruiting our foster parents, promoting our services, and then creating events for children and families, especially our kids who are in foster care.
How'd you get interested, though, in social services? I mean, just something you kind of always thought you would want to do, or just did something happen, or?
I'd started in education. I wanted to be a teacher. I tried that out for a little bit and realized that wasn't the route that I wanted to be going. And then I went into nonprofits and found my love for nonprofits, and then ended up going into social services, and that was where I ended up.
Okay. And nonprofits and social services are a lot the same.
Yeah.
And social services is definitely, I used to work in social services and love that. So also, and I get the teaching thing. That is hard.
Yeah.
Depending on the age.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So you have this inaugural Tribal Child Abuse Prevention Conference coming up. When and where is this going to be held?
So it's going to be April 22nd. We're hosting it at the Shelby Building, which is in the Wild Horse Pass area near Whirlwind Golf Course.
Okay. And it's at Wild Horse Pass, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the focus of the conference? So I know obviously in the title, it's child abuse prevention, but are you having specific topics or tracks or speakers? And is this geared for families or professionals or both?
It's geared to both, to anyone who wants to join us, but we're really focusing on that child abuse prevention through healing-centered and culturally grounded practices. We have a full day planned. We have our morning keynote with Dr. Kimber Olson, who's focusing on indigenous wisdom and the neuroscience between healing-centered child welfare. We have a couple general sessions, which is going into more just like gardening as therapy, highlighting that healing through connection and environment. And then another session that's focusing on historical healing and the relevance for indigenous youth today. And then we also have our afternoon keynote with Kansas Middleton, who is working on moving beyond resilience and stepping into empowerment and healing. And then we also have our panel discussion, which is going to be focusing on Gila River's efforts to what they do when a child goes missing.
So was there an impetus? Why did you all decide that you needed to do this conference?
So I had just finished working with our Victim Services Department and Pasco Yaki's Office of the Prosecutor on the Awareness to Action Domestic Violence Conference last year. So I was talking with our director about what kind of conferences do we have for child abuse prevention in tribal communities, and we really didn't have one here. And so we decided that we wanted to create that space where people could learn how to support Native children and families and have that space to learn.
All right. So because this is kind of your space, do you see, and I don't know, I know this wasn't one of the questions that I had sent you, but do you see a lot of child abuse, or do you think, is it kind of like breaking the cycle? That's sort of what you're going for, right?
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at what this conference, what the goal for it to be, we have a lot of professionals who are working with our children who aren't working in the community. And so I wanted to be able to create a place where we could teach people working with our community's children the appropriate ways to do that.
All right. So for people that don't have experience or don't know, what kind of tips or suggestions or commentary do you have for that?
As in,
I know I'm throwing that at you. I mean, I think for people that don't know, I guess maybe one of the first things that I could ask you is, how do you know if someone is being, if there's some kind of abuse? Are there any telltale signs? Are there things you should look for? If children or youth seem out of sorts for a while, besides obviously like physical trauma, seeing bruises and things like that. What any telltale signs that something's going on at home? Are children more withdrawn or depressed, or do they sometimes talk about it? What should people look for?
yeah, sometimes, kids acted out in their play. I've seen that happen with kids that are experiencing abuse at home. A change in their attitude, a change in their personality are really good signs that they could possibly be experiencing that.
So for more than like a day or two, right? So I mean, everybody has bad days and bad things happen
Yeah,
sometimes.
and then I think the people that your teachers, your people who are constantly with them really know their personality and know how they are able to pick up on that.
In taking a step back, I guess, what would you say constitutes abuse? Physical abuse, is that, and I know things have changed over the years, is that, if you're being hit at home, or physical abuse? And then I know there's also like psychosocial emotional abuse. How would you describe it, and what different types of abuse is there that people should watch out for?
So we have physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and then we also have neglect. Neglect is, I think, one of the higher rates when you look at statistics nationwide in tribal communities. There's all those different kinds of abuse.
You just mentioned the different types of abuse and neglect. Can you tell us a little bit and give us some examples of what the different types of abuse are, as well as neglect?
When you're looking at abuse, it'd be those non-accidental physical injuries, any emotional abuse, that lack of necessary care for illness or injury, leaving young kids unsupervised or alone, abandoning them, also leaving them without like adequate clothing, food, or shelter. And then also another one would be like allowing children to live in an environment that could be considered like a health hazard, or that poses a different risk of danger.
And I know that everybody's would have different varying degrees of different things that they think that. But in terms of abuse, I know that you said there's like physical abuse and sexual abuse. Can you give us some examples of what physical abuse is, and emotional abuse, and the other types of abuse?
So when we look at physical abuse, we're looking at bruises, black eyes, broken bones, marks on the body, welts from like belts, shoes, broom handles, extreme lice, extreme rashes, stuff like that, where it's not being taken care of when it's noted.
And then what would you describe as like emotional abuse and sexual abuse?
For sexual abuse, it could be access or exposure to porn, sex between adults, inappropriate touching, all those kinds of
anything
things.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how about emotional abuse?
So when you look at emotional abuse, you're looking more for those like projection, withholding love, ignoring the children, giving those verbal attacks, constantly yelling or belittling them, isolating the children, preventing them from having friends or social interactions, ignoring those emotional needs also, not responding to their need for attention, failing to like provide that sense of safety and belonging.
So what would you do if you're working with children or teens or adolescents and you suspect abuse? What's the first thing that you should do?
The best thing is, if you suspect it, is to call the appropriate reporting agency. If you feel that the risk is immediate, we would call police. If they're in Gila River jurisdiction, they'd be calling Tribal Social Services. If they're on state side, they'd be calling DCS. But I think it's always important that the person who gets the information first is the person that's making the report. A lot of times people push it off to their supervisor or someone else, and then it falls into this like game of telephone where we're losing information as we report.
It's really hard. I mean, I remember the first time I did a DCS report, and it's terrifying and it's unsettling, and the children are at such risk and you want to help them, but you're also scared. I mean, it's a lot of mixed feelings when you do that. And you, as being in social services at Gila River, has there been anything in your career that you kind of at night think, or just when you're driving and you say, you know what, this was really good. This is why I chose this career. Do you have a particular thought or memory or event that makes it all worthwhile?
So before I came to Gila River, I was working in a residential group home, and where we had kids from 0 to 10. And so we worked with them and helped them regulate their behaviors and regulate their emotions. And being able to see them, I would see them outside, like once they were done with our program, and they'd be with their new foster family or with their family again, and seeing them thrive. I think being able to see that change in them is what really keeps me going, knowing that we are making a difference.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely make a difference. So you're hoping, I'm going to go back to the conference because I think it's a really important conference, and I'm glad that you guys took the initiative, that you all decided to do this conference. I think it's going to be great. I think a lot of good information. Tell us again about the conference. When is it?
So it's April 22nd. It's full day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And you said it's open to anybody, correct?
Yeah, anyone who works with families or wants to support those prevention efforts, we're encouraging them to come.
Okay. I know there's a fee, and they can check the website. And it is the inaugural Child Abuse Prevention Conference put on by the Gila River Tribal Social Services Department. And how can people find out more information about purchasing their registration for the conference?
Yeah, so we have our link tree, which is linktree/GRIC-TSS, that has all the registration links on there. And then also on our Gila River Facebook page, we post our flyer on there, which has a QR code and the links also to register.
Okay. So GRIC would be Gila River Indian Community Tribal Social Services, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then if somebody wanted to email you, are they able to do that?
Yeah, they can do that.
All right. And what's your email?
tss.events@gric.nsn.us.
Alex, I know it's going to be a great conference. I know that you all did a great job on your last one, and I know this one's going to be even better. And I wish you the best of success and luck at the conference, and can't wait to hear how it goes and what you're going to plan for next year. So thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next on Native Talk Arizona, we'll learn about the Greater Gallup Industrial Workforce Program with Tom Masick. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and the Greater Gallup Industrial Workforce Program benefits the Gallup, New Mexico economy by providing qualified employees to industrial employers and to give local underskilled opportunities in the trades. On the phone to tell us more is Tom Masick, Industrial Workforce Program Director and Instructor. Tom, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Super excited to learn more. I saw some posts and thought this would be a really great program for our listeners to learn more about. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what do you do at the Southwest Indian Foundation?
I was born in Gallup and grew up here. Moved away when I was in high school and in college when my family left, and then I actually came back to Gallup only a few years ago after getting out of. I'm actually a Marine Corps veteran. I was an officer in the Marine Corps, and I came back because I had contacts here, and they were kicking off this industrial workforce program at the Southwest Indian Foundation, and I was familiar with the Southwest Indian Foundation from when I lived here when I was younger, and they reached out to me knowing that I was getting out of the Marine Corps and thought I'd be a good fit as an instructor and the program director. So I've been back for about 2.5 years now, which really has been immense growth in the industrial workforce program specifically.
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for your service to the country. And I think this program sounds like amazing, and I can't wait to learn more. So let's take a step back and let's find out, what does the Southwest Indian Foundation do?
The Southwest Indian Foundation is a nonprofit based in Gallup, New Mexico, and our mission is to lessen the poverty and unemployment of Native Americans in the Southwest. We were founded in 1968, I believe, and since then we have a number of different programs ranging from our catalog, which employs Native American artists and to sell Native American arts and crafts. And a lot of that revenue will provide, obviously income for the artists, and then that will generate income to fund all of our, or many of our programs, which could range from housing assistance to utilities assistance to housing. We have our own construction crews. We've been building houses for, about 30 years probably. We've actually recently just broken the 300 mark. We've put over 300 houses in the surrounding area on the reservation for veteran families, veteran Native American families, and impoverished Native American families on the reservations. We have a wide swath of programs that the Southwest Indian Foundation does. All of them are oriented towards lessening the poverty and unemployment of Native Americans in the Southwest.
Very cool. 300, that is impressive. So is this only do you have to be tribally enrolled, number one? And two, do you have to be a resident of New Mexico?
Okay, well, let me give you a little bit of background on the Industrial Workforce Program. So the Industrial Workforce Program is a new initiative from the Southwest Indian Foundation. It's about 5 or 6 years old. Because of the way that we build our houses, we will build some on site, and then many of them we will construct them we have a warehouse in Gallup, and we'll build them up to about 80 or 90% completion, and then we'll transport them out onto their permanent foundation and finish them on site. But because of the way that we do that, we have essentially what we've turned into a training facility. And so what started off as just one program, which is our adult construction program, a 12-week program which will train students in residential construction, heavy equipment, and welding, since then has blossomed out into a number of different training programs that we offer. And then to your point, no, we do not require that you be anyone in the greater Gallup area. New Mexico and Arizona residents are eligible to apply for our program.
Okay, so they can apply for the Greater Gallup Industrial Workforce Program and or the housing.
Correct. Yeah. So the housing is specific. Yeah. I'm sorry. Wow. I got my wires crossed there. Our housing program is a separate application process. That is for Native American families. We work with the Navajo Nation as well as the other tribes in our area to determine recipients of those houses.
Okay. So if somebody's interested in finding more about the housing program that you've got, that would be through the Southwest Indian Foundation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then they would go online, and then there's an application process or something on the website?
Yes, ma'am. So if you're interested in the housing program, then you can go on to the southwestindian.com, and there you can read about the housing program, and then that will require an in-person application. You come into one of our offices in downtown Gallup, and we have all that. Come into our offices and fill out the application forms to get started on housing program. And that could range from anything from obviously the houses that we build to payments assistance, to utilities assistance, to we also have a stove program where we end up putting in During the wintertime, we install wood-burning stoves in houses that don't have heating that are out on the reservation.
How long is the waiting list for this program?
That one, I don't have all the details on that.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Okay, but they can call and talk to somebody or find out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, then we're going to step back again, and then let's talk about the Greater Gallup Industrial Workforce Program. So what is that? What's the age group? Who can do that? And how does that all work? And what does that entail?
The Greater Gallup Industrial Workforce Program started off as just one program, which was our 12-week adult construction program. And that serves anyone from 18 years old and up. And that's a 12-week construction-based training program. But the Industrial Workforce Program has really come to encompass all of our workforce development programs, which have sprung up surrounding that program. So it includes we have a high school pre-apprenticeship program that we run in partnership with Gallup and McKinley County Schools, where we train seniors they'll come in for the entire year, 4 days a week, to our warehouse and receive training in construction, welding, and heavy equipment operation. We also have an automotive program, which is really fairly new, 2 years old now, I think, which is a 6 to 8 week program where students will receive training in automotive servicing. Anything from diagnostics to basic maintenance to tires, brakes, bumper to bumper course, which will prepare them for entry-level jobs in the automotive industry.
Open to males and females?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how do you apply? Because I know you said you've got from high school all the way up. Do you just walk in? Do you check your website, social media? Is it a
Great
rigorous
question.
process? And is it selective, or does everybody get chosen?
So the best place to apply for any of our programs is going to be on our website, industrialworkforceprogram.com. And you'll see there's a list of all the programs that we offer, and it'll take you to an application form. We have rolling applications for our programs, except for the high school program is a partnership with Gallup and McKinley County Schools. So that's for students of Gallup and McKinley County Schools, and we manage that application process with them. But for our other programs, for our automotive or construction adult programs, they can go on and apply, and then there's a number of things that we do. So we provide the training, we provide the tools, but we also have a number of partners that work with us to make these programs successful. Notably among them is the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions. So we work with them because the state of New Mexico has a number of programs where many applicants will be eligible for part-time pay and other different benefits that they can receive. So we work with our students in a couple of different application processes to see if we can get them part-time pay while they go through our program.
And then since you're a workforce program, do you also work with people to craft their resumes and help them for preparation in finding a job?
Yes, ma'am. So we've been building houses, and we've got our own fleet of vehicles, which means we've been in the industries and in the trades in Gallup for a long time, and we know a lot of the people, really everybody in Gallup. So the mission of the Industrial Workforce Program was not to just be your shop class and or college course. It really was we measure our success by the students that get jobs. And if we can't point to our students and say, hey, look, Liam got a job as a heavy equipment operator, and Eric is now doing automotive servicing, then we haven't been successful. So we provide job placement assistance. As I tell my students this whenever they come in and apply with me, is well, hey, we have a lot of connections, and we leverage those connections, but it depends on your performance, right? Because we have to protect our credibility and our relationships with these companies so that we continue to get our students employed. So really depends a lot on their job performance, but we do everything from job coaching to resume building to job searching and job career fairs and all the whole gamut. And then more than that, which is really important to our program, is that we stay in contact with our graduates. I have graduates that have reached out after a year and a half, 2 years where they hadn't landed a job, reached back out, and we've been able to connect them and find them employment. And so we have a real network with our graduates. If you go through our program and graduate from our program, then you're always going to have a mentorship and community of people to reach back out to help you in your journey.
Are any of your programs online? It sounds like everything is in person. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So we are in person in Gallup.
So in terms of like, if you want to get involved for some of this Native American specific programs, do you have to be an enrolled tribal member or can you self-identify?
Those will have to be enrolled.
Enrolled tribal members. Okay. All right. But in terms of the workforce, that's open to anybody. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So not...
That's open to anybody in our area, in the Gallup area, New Mexico and Arizona residents.
Okay. New Mexico and Arizona residents in the Gallup area for the workforce program. So the one that you would need tribal ID would be the housing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
And I don't want to get too much in the details because that's a whole...
Okay, that's fine.
I don't manage that program, so...
All right.
A little out of my wheelhouse.
Okay, and you kind of talked a little bit about how long the programs are. I think it sounds like a great program. Am I allowed to ask who funds this, or is that a no?
So part of our funding, we have received a federal grant, which provides about 30% of the funding for that program. The other 70% of the funding for these programs is provided through the Southwest Indian Foundation, through our donors and benefactors, as well as we work through federal funding through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act through the state. So we work with the Department of Workforce Solutions, and then there is federal money there that is provided for occupational skills training.
That's very cool. And then some of the money you said from the foundation, that's from the art sales?
That's from our bank account and our donors and all that whole gamut of benefactors. Mm-hmm.
Benefactors. All right. So do you have a particular, I know you said you've been there about 2.5 years. Do you have a favorite success story that you often, when either funders or somebody coming in says like, hey, what's the best thing that you've done on this job or that's really made a difference to you? Can you think of one thing that stands out?
It's really an amazing program to be a part of because there's so many crazy success stories. People that hadn't worked for years and years who are trying to get back into the workforce and are able to get employed and really find the value and dignity of work through this program. But to speak to one, which I frequently tell people about, is Liam, Native American, came to our program, and he had kind of done seasonal work for his entire life. And I think Liam was looking to get into the workforce, but never had a serious career, a long-time job. He did seasonal work setting up tents for a tent company in Arizona and New Mexico, I believe. Came into our program, did a really, really good job. And at the last 2 weeks of our construction program, we do an intensive heavy equipment tutorial. So our students will get on for 2 weeks all day. We'll be driving tractors, everything from an excavator to a backhoe to a bulldozer to a compactor. And we generally try to do those on job sites so that they can actually get real experience. And Liam loved it. He loved it. And he had never been on a big tractor like that before. But after our 2-week tutorial, was able to get a job with the Navajo Engineering and Construction Authority as a backhoe operator. Liam's been working with them for almost 2 years now as a backhoe operator. And Liam's great because he always reaches back out to us. Actually, I think there's a recent post that I did about him on Facebook on our website about him. He said it changed his life because he'd never had that idea of what a career looked like and like permanent work, as well as like he had skills. He had marketable skills, and he was able to hunt down that job and do something that he loves, and he's still doing it.
That is awesome. And that he feels self-confident and has a need and worth and is contributing and due to what you did. And he obviously never would have known that if you didn't have that program, because how many people hop on a large tractor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Since you're one of the directors there, what do you guys have planned for the future? Any other projects, or just keep expanding or staying the same?
Towards the end of 2025, so just about 4 or 5 months ago, we broke ground on a new training facility, which is going to double or triple our capacity to produce houses, so increase our housing program. It's going to be a much bigger training facility with real classrooms and all the training, supplies, room that we need. So that training facility is kind of the next step for us, but in lockstep with that, we're in the process of trying to double the size of our high school pre-apprenticeship to expand our automotive program to not just be automotive servicing, but also to be paint and body. That's something that we've found out is a real need in our community. In all of our programs, we really we're not trying to make these programs up. We're looking at our community and the state and the national stats on labor to see, hey, where are people going to find jobs, and to really train to that to build our program. So we're expanding all of our programs, and we're looking at potentially new programs. So the new programs could be anything from agricultural programs to trail building, recreational based training programs. So we have a lot of growth in the future. We're really excited about it, and it just keeps on going, and we need continued support so we can keep doing this and keep really training people and giving them, showing them the value of work and the dignity of work.
You speak with such passion, and that you obviously care about this, and you're proud of the programs. What a great program.
Thank you so much.
I am so glad that we found that.
that.
I mean, it's just, all right, so we don't have a lot more time, but I wanted to find out, so if somebody wanted to reach you, how can they contact you? If they wanted to find out about the Industrial Workforce Program, how would they do that? And also the Southwest Indian Foundation, how would they do that?
So the Southwest Indian Foundation, you can go to our website at southwestindian.com, and that has all of our contact information, emails, and phone numbers for our different offices. So that'd be the best way to get an idea, to go do some more research on Southwest Indian Foundation and the different programs that we offer there. And then if you were interested in the Industrial Workforce Program, then head on over to industrialworkforceprogram.com, and that has contact form submission. My work number is 505-236-2142, and people can feel free to reach out to me and contact me there.
Okay, Tom, so I have one more question before I say thank you and goodbye. But my other question, or my final question again, so let's reiterate. You did say that if somebody lived in Gallup in Arizona and New Mexico, tribal or non-tribal, or tribally enrolled or non-tribally enrolled, they can still do the workforce program, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So what a great opportunity. Totally encourage our listeners that live out there that are interested in the Industrial Workforce Program to check it out and contact Tom. But I really, Tom, wanted to say thank you again for your military service in the U.S., in the Marines, and also to say thank you. And what a great job you're doing at the Industrial Workforce Program. And I really hope our listeners check it out and find out more about the different programs that you've got. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm just going to throw one more plug in there is, if anybody knows of employers, and really, I mean, I talk to employers all over. That is the one part that I constantly, for us, it's so important to constantly be engaging with employers. Or if there's employers listening to this, please reach out. We provide, I think we're able to provide a pretty good service, basically a recruiting service, and able to provide good recommendations on people that are looking to work hard and really be successful and support their families and support their community and really lift their quality of life. And so if you're an employer, please reach out to us. We'd love to partner with you and discuss how we can support you, and you guys can support us and our graduates of our program.
Excellent plug. Let's hope some people that are interested in working and some employers reach out. And Tom, thanks again, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Up next, Susan Levy chats with Garrett Edsity, Southwest artist from Chinle, Arizona. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health's outreach enrollment specialists can help you enroll, renew, or update your access information. It's fast, easy, and can make a difference in keeping your health care coverage. For more information, call 602-285-9492.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and today we have Garrett Etzedy. He's a Southwest soulful artist from Chinle, Arizona, and has a diverse collection of works throughout the Southwest. For over a decade, he's collaborated and worked individually on various socially engaged interdisciplinary projects. Garrett, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Susan. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey. How'd you get interested in art?
Well, I started art at an early age. Born and raised in Chinle, Arizona, a traditional place where my elders are from. It's called Bonzovas, about 3 or 4 miles north of Chinle. And there's like a cinder hill, like a mesa, that my great-great-great-grandmother, and she was getting chased, and was during that time frame when they were having battles, and she led the soldiers to an ambush. She was saved, and they, was a battle during that time frame when they fought each other. So that's the traditional place where I'm originally from, and right next door there's another traditional place called Ma'i Betol, which is Coyote Springs, and that's kind of like my stomping grounds. And growing up there, I pretty much grew up from the land, grew up from observing my grandmother, sheep herding, and her mother too as well, which I'm so grateful to get to meet with them, face to face. And it's kind of like a very surreal moment that I actually met my grandmother's parents and my grandfather's parents, and just being part of that, sacred location. Just kind of like observing art at an early age and just enjoying the fruits of culture of how they assisted and how the environment, because my grandfather was a traditional practitioner. He was a medicine man, and he helped the community. So both of my parents, they're originally from that location, and just observing that beautiful environment. I kind of like sat in these ceremonies and just observed the fire. I used to doodle on the stand. I used to play in the canyon. It was really admiring to see the petroglyphs on the canyon walls, and just my mind just kind of like was very in a creative sphere as a young kid. You just think of so many things of what if and what is and what are these symbols represent. And certain ceremonies, I would just kind of like manifest these textiles, these designs. And from there, I was like, used to doodle all the time on the sand rocks, doodle on the sand. As much as I, learned from the stories, I just imagine like the stories they shared with me. And then my claims are Bitter Water, which is my first. My second is Water Flows Together, Kea'ani, and then Nak'epina, which is Towering House and Mexican Clan. Those are my clans.
Your artwork is absolutely beautiful. The colors are vibrant and beautiful. So for our listeners, I really encourage you to check them out. I love your hummingbirds and all the things that you do. But you also add a lot of geometric designs in there. But what mediums, and I'm not an artist, so what mediums do you primarily work in? It looks like, are they acrylic or...
Oh, yes. I normally work with acrylic because due to the drying time, I started off with graphite once upon a time, and I was pretty much what was given to me during high school. And graphite was my first medium that I ever played with, and charcoal and pastel, but mostly just graphite because the number 2 pencils that they issued out. So that was the first medium that I ever got a hold of as a young kid. But learning how to do shading was the ultimate technique to really learn with lighting. And from there, branching off to acrylic, it was a little bit of challenging at first, but then again, oil was like one of my favorites too as well. But due to the toxicity of it, sometimes like when you paint in an indoor environment, then it kind of like the smell kind of gets to me a little bit. So that's why I paint with acrylic.
And doesn't it dry slower, oil also?
Yeah, you can buy like oils that could dry slower, but the ones that are like flowing like butter and it takes a while for it to dry, it's like you can go back to the painting and readjust it with, the shades and the blends. And that's the beauty of oil, is that once it doesn't dry like completely, but you can go back like within 3 days to 4 days,
Oh,
and you
that's pretty
can
good.
work with the skin tones, and especially with skin tones, like human skin tones. Like you could just backtrack and you can blend, and the blending is like phenomenal. Like you can go like super realistic with oil, but with acrylic, it's like kind of like right when you do the paint stroke, it's like automatically you know it would just dry within like a few minutes. And but then again, as an acrylic painting artist, I've been spray painting too as well, and it's the same technique and it's faster. I love it. I enjoy it.
How would you describe your art style? It's kind of like a contemporary, I think sort of geometric. What would you say your art style is?
I would say my style, it's kind of like a futuristic,
Oh yeah. Okay.
time travel. When I create these patterns, I try to think of, I adopt a lot of patterns from different textiles throughout the world. And when I do compose a certain pattern, I try to create something that's different. So majority of my patterns that I normally create, I try to switch it up a little bit different than Southwest textiles and as the rug weaving styles. So majority of my patterns are composed, and to believe it or not, a lot of it comes from ceremonial practices from my grandfather and storytelling, and I just kind of imagine like what it looks like and these certain deities that they share through their storytelling. And with these kind of like abstraction textiles and these geometrics that I compose, it's like this is kind of like what I kind of feel at that specific moment, and it just marinates in my head. And sometimes when I take walks or out of the blue driving, I'll see certain patterns. And sometimes when I do have the paintbrush on the palm of my hands and let it flow onto the canvas, I don't plan, to believe it or not. I don't sketch my patterns. It just automatically comes, and I just, go with the flow of how, I don't know. It just kind of automatically comes through me, and I just love creating.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've created? I noticed on your website quite a bit of it. Some of the bigger pieces are sold out, and some of the others. But what's been your favorite piece? And do you still have it, or did you part with it?
There's certain pieces that I enjoyed in the past, and there's certain pieces that I knew that the technical skill was time consuming, and I knew that, I put all my time into learning a certain specific style. And so far, with any certain pieces that I really enjoy, I really like my natural pigment geometric horse that was featured on the centennial celebration of Swaya, which was like an honor to have that showcased on that platform. That certain piece was a beautiful story behind it. When my uncle introduced me to a certain place, a sacred area where I'm originally from, Bonzagos, it's a traditional name, and there's a sacred site with kind of like petrified horse hooves onto the sandstone, which is very unique. And he told me a very unique story about this horse, and I kind of like saw visions. I saw a connection. I felt, you know, the stories of my, great great grandmother riding that horse, and she was a warrior, and she was the one that was getting chased by the soldiers during that time frame. The warriors kind of like ambushed, and just having those stories in my mind. That certain piece I composed, and it's made out of natural pigments, which these pigments came from the location of my grandmother, and kind of like the cochineal dyes and all that, and kind of like the charcoal. I kind of blended it all together and composed a piece that was made by the land. And it's very, every time I look at it, and every time I don't own that piece. Certain that piece is currently owned in Los Angeles somewhere by a collector, and that piece I still remember to this day, and I always think about it. And it's called War Paint Horse.
Okay, so I've got a question on your art cards. Can you tell us a little bit about what is an art card? What's the inspiration? Where are they? And just give us all the details about that.
As a young kid, I was introduced to comics by my cousin, my late cousin Joey. Me and him, we used to draw comic book characters, and I was introduced to, X-Men. I was introduced to Wolverine, and just kind of like mimicking those comics. And he also showed me a Wizard magazine during that time frame, and ever since then, I was hooked since then, and saw like the features of Comic Con on there, and just a bunch of res kids, just challenging each other, doodling, and all of a sudden, I met Garrett Seamus, and he is this Ace Comic Con CEO who invented the Ace Comic Con, and he also created the Wizard magazine. And just kind of like a quick introduction during that time frame out in New York when I met with him, just kind of like informed them about my, my culture, my history, how I was so captivated with characters. And it was just like, wow, I'm actually talking with this guy, but just kind of like an introduction of a good friend. Her name is Sonia Gomez. She was the one that introduced me. That was her friend, and she introduced me to him and informed me like, hey, Garrett's starting up this art card, and it's going to be like a whole new, game changer of, collecting art. And it's going to be encapsulated by CGC. And CGC is kind of like a company that normally encapsulates like comic books and preserves like cards, and it also kind of like pushes out, how much it's worth, with the pricing of each, how much it grades the comics and it grades the cards. And him working with that company, they created they agreed to an agreement of encapsulating the first, fine art, official fine art, the original fine art cards into these, into CGC. And from there, it was like, wow, that is a game changer of kind of like art collecting, but it's not a card. It's actually original works of art onto, canvas. It could be anything that fits the frame of the card. I think it was like 2 inches by 3, I think. That's the card. I'm not too sure, but I need to, measure that. But yeah, so that's how that I was introduced to that project, and, I was just so captivated by his idea. And since then I agreed, and I created about 9 pieces, and one card sold. The first card that he sold was the owner is Dustin Yellen, and he is the CEO and founder of Pioneer Works in New York. And that was the first card, which was like a talking deity card that I created. And the rest of the cards were like bird pieces, and that was the first card that was collected. And this was like before it was launched, and yeah, it was kind of like an honor to have that collection from that guy collected my piece from that.
I really love your art. It really resonates with me, and the hummingbirds and the colors. But we're almost out of time, and so I want to find out, how can our listeners find more information about your artwork, and how can they contact you, whether it's social media or your website? Give us all the information.
Okay, so you can browse or visit my website, which is www.garrettetcity.com. My first name, Garrett, last name Etcity, ETSITTY.com. Once you visit my site, you can contact me through email, look at my portfolio, featured events. My social media is also linked to it, so you can follow the links, and you can visit my, my Facebook and my Instagram.
Awesome. I encourage our listeners to check out your artwork, but I really appreciate you coming on today and telling us about your art, how you got started, and the great projects that you're involved with. And so thank you, Garrett. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.